all started a long time ago. We were in the same class. Her name was either Katerina or Christina, but from 1st to 10th grade she was Peppy to us. Well, maybe some of you still remember Pippilotta Victualia Rolgardina and so on, aka Pippi Longstocking. She is cheerful, living by the rules, with an exuberant imagination, always ready to rush off and organize something. Red-headed, funny, everyone's friend and comrade. The only trouble of her school years was that in high school the boys flatly refused to accept her as a girl. Peppy is a friend, and you don't fuck your friends. Peppy didn't seem the least bit upset by this circumstance. She was doing pretty well as it was. It was prom night, last call, final exams, and entrance exams. I lost sight of Peppy for a few years. Sometimes I wondered what an idiot I'd been, and what a great girl I'd missed out on. Especially after my ex-girlfriend called, screaming hysterically about how I had ruined her life. After a few days in and out of life, I seemed to have finally settled down with a job and a place to live, although my personal life still left a lot to be desired. Girlfriends came and went, none of them for long. The days passed by, one like two peas in a pod. One day on my day off, I found a truck in front of our driveway. Lined up on the asphalt driveway were polyethylene-wrapped armchairs and a folded couch, next to the kitchen. I always thought that things taken out of the apartment in an unfamiliar environment looked very miserable. Someone was either moving out or moving in. As I climbed the stairs I found out that a housewarming party was going on in the apartment one floor below me. Previously it had been occupied by a quiet old couple with a fat, squealing pup. Then the old man died and the old lady and the dog left. I wonder who will take their place now. The movers moved the furniture, the van roared its engine, and drove away. A couple of days later I bumped into a charming girl coming out of the apartment, short skirt, long legs, velvet eyes, like a doe. There was a child about 2 or 3 years old, and he was walking around under her feet. We nodded to each other, as good neighbors should. We went out into the street, and the girl, dragging the child behind her, headed for the car, a bumpy Datsun, not of the first youth. Someone was sitting behind the wheel, and the girl and the child climbed in and drove away. Life in an apartment building is a strange thing. You seem to be constantly among people, but you may not run into some of your neighbors for years. I still don't know who lives in the apartment on the 2nd floor, where there's a steel door with no number. And then, I was walking from work. At the same time the driver of Datsun parked. I glimpsed and even stumbled, wondering, is it her, not her? Peppy. My thin-voiced classmate was at least 3 or 4 sizes too big. She never grew a bust. The former Peppy looked more like a Canadian lumberjack, but she remembered her school nicknames. Jimmy. She marveled. Hello, my ass. And they say Megalopolis, Megalopolis. Listen, I've got some beer here, do you want one? Or are they waiting for you at home? No. I'll just call my friends and tell them I stumbled across a fossil from the past. No, some things never change. Peppy was still an open-hearted soul, unwilling to bow under the blows of fate. A couple of hours later I knew almost everything about Peppy's life from the last call to the present day. An unsuccessful marriage, a child, the search for self and place in the world, a dozen different jobs. Psychologist, courses, training, business. Girlfriend. Peppy accompanied this word with a defiant smirk. They say go ahead, do not miss the chance to show cynical male chauvinism. I smirked back understandingly, and we clinked bottles of Budweiser. In the current climate of tolerance, why should I care who lives and sleeps with the girl we sat next door to? Her pretty friend's name was Oksana. The baby's name was Sophia. They had been together for 2 years and everyone seemed happy. I would occasionally stop by to visit them, to see a new movie or just to have some company, and sometimes Peppy would visit me. Normally I try to stay away from small children, they're loud, obtrusive, and completely insane, but Sonia was a happy exception. She didn't yell, she didn't climb into my arms, she didn't stick her toys in my arms and demand to get to know me immediately. Quietly sat there and listened, barely understanding one word of our 5. The 3 girls lived in an ordinary 2-room apartment, surprisingly quickly turning it into a cozy family nest. My ex and I never managed to do that, in spite of the new appliances, plasma TV, and feng shui stuff. I loved visiting them. Their house was comforting, suggesting that even in these lousy times the proverbial family well-being was achievable. They had moved in the early spring, Sonia had started kindergarten in the fall, but in the winter something began to go wrong. At first it was just little things. Sonia, a cheerful girl, looked worse and sniffed her nose a lot. They called me over less and less often. Peppy smoked cigarette after cigarette when she came, but I couldn't get anything out of her. A couple of times I caught her and Oksana arguing in front of the car, Sunny's sad face whitening through the frosted glass. And I didn't even know what to do. Someone else's life, as you know, is in the dark. What good would it do to interfere if I didn't even know what their problems were? And why would this couple share their secrets with a stranger? In winter, the day ends quickly, and the evenings drag on and on, like a dull grey haze, irritating and insidiously maddening. Who used to live in the apartment we bought? Peppy, which wasn't often anymore, dropped by, and she took the bull by the horns. They never complained that there was anything like that in the house. Never, I answered honestly. At least, I hadn't heard anything from them. The dog barked occasionally, but that's what a dog is, to bark pointlessly. Once they got flooded from upstairs, the sewer burst somehow, that's all. Peppy, what's the matter with you people? Who'd have known if I'd been told, Peppy muttered. There's a lot of nonsense going on. Do you know what now is? In general internet, I nodded. Does it have any concrete expression? Peppy angrily picked the bottle cap off the edge of the table. Things are disappearing. The wallpaper is wet. We put them up a while ago, good and proper. And they're wet, like the walls leaking underneath them. It's annoying. The light bulbs keep bursting. And those damn toys. What's wrong with them? Sonia's got 3 cases of those damn stuffed animals. We put them in her room every night, and every morning they're all over the place. It's like someone's spreading them around. Aksa the other day ran to turn off the kettle, almost twisted her ankle. I was about to throw them away, but Sonia got hysterical. Aksa again. She paused for a long sip. Aksa wants a job, but she just can't get it. Instead of some scam interview, or magical socks in the train to sell, I simply and frankly from the doorstep begin to beg for, give me money. This makes her go up against the wall and throw herself at people. Sonia has endless colds, not enough money for medicine. I can't sleep at night, it's stuffy. When I open the window, it's cold. Some kind of nonsense comes into my head. Someone whispers in my ear, stomps under the bed. But it's okay, she frowned. She frowned. Not the kind you'd attack. I ain't afraid of nothing. I'll have them all grunting with sobs. Not having practical experience in dealing with Nio, I did not dare to give advice. But I didn't envy the evil creature who decided to compete with our Peppy. This one would burn the apartment with virtual napalm and sweep the carcasses of defeated enemies out the door with a fucking broom. It had been a week or 2 since that conversation, I don't remember exactly. The new year was approaching, the traditional rush at work and the race for survival had begun. The city was icy in traffic and icicles because of the 24-hour snowfall, and I was barely home by midnight. I didn't even realize at once that the doorbell was ringing. Judging by the determination of the bell, it was Peppy. But at the door was her girlfriend, Oksana. Frightened, annoyed, and with a flashlight. The stairs behind her were plunged in darkness. "Oh," I said. "I know it's idiotic," she said tiredly. "Peppy told me to go and get you. We don't have any lights. We have some crap crawling around the house. I'm scared. I'm going to cry." Peppy doesn't want to explain anything, she just swears. "Sophia's asleep. What should I do?" I'm usually quite eloquent in situations like this. "Here's what you do. You sit here. It's bright and warm. Kitchen, kettle, coffee. I'll close the door, take the keys and go rescue Peppy. Do you have your cell phone with you? If anything, we'll send a panic text message." She smiled faintly. She didn't even argue. And I staggered down the stairs, almost tripping over myself, even though I'd run up and down those stairs 1,000 times. Our house had small, standard apartments. The one with the 3 girls was a mirror image of mine. But today their little hallway seemed endless to me. It was no longer warm, it was cold, and I was scared shitless that if I tripped over something it would be the hand or foot of a dead Peppy. Or I would see her inside the big mirror on the bathroom door, and she would knock and scream silently, and how could I explain to her that she was stuck inside the reflection? "Peppy," I called out in a husky whisper. "She's here," she answered at once. "Is Oxa staying with you?" "That's right. Crawl over here. Look." Peppy was sitting on the sofa in the living room. Very calm and collected. She lit a couple of candles, but somehow they didn't do much to dispel the darkness. But we're not in a gothic fucking castle, we're in a room 3 meters by 3 meters. And I can see the dark rectangle of a window, and the flicker of charging lights on numerous gadgets, yellow and green and blue. "Did you check the traffic?" I asked just in case. 3 times. No light. "And these infestations don't care," Peppy sighed convulsively, like a big tired animal. "They seem to move around sometimes. That can't be, Jimmy. We're in a civilized world. In the middle of a huge city. No nets exist." Something slipped past me, quietly and creepily, like an autumn cobweb. "I have to go and check on Sonia," said Peppy. She paused and then added, "But I can't." "Are you afraid?" I didn't understand. "I don't think I can get up," but contradicting her own words, she heaved herself off the couch. I imagined thin, white strands of thread reaching behind her and breaking off. Maybe it was the synthetic from the leaky upholstery. Peppy grabbed a candle. Stumbling over scattered toys, we reached the second door, with a stained glass window in the shape of a ship. I turned the knob and looked in, and almost screamed when I saw an ugly, heady figure standing in front of the window. Then I realized it was an ordinary computer chair, with things piled on the back. On the left side of the wall should be a big couch, where the baby sleeps. And over the couch hung something like a big dark shawl, hanging from the ceiling in folds. I was about to ask why such a silly construction was attached over the bed, but Peppy made a strange groan and held out her hand with a candle. The light flickered and flickered, about to go out, and in those few moments we saw. And who knows what we saw? I saw a dusty rag, or whatever you want to call it, dangling in the air without any visible support and trembling, and in its stretched folds I could make out a face, or was it a grinning face? I saw a sleeping child. I saw a glimpse of something white, crashing violently into the thing and floundering in the folds. Then the white thing flew out with a soft, stifled squeak right under my feet, and the black cloth shrank and flowed upward, to where the wall joins the ceiling, and where the maidens had a decorative narrow ledge attached to it. Mechanically I bent down and picked up what had hit my foot. It was an ornamental rabbit with a ripped belly, like the 6th or 7th grade anatomy poster. It twitched weakly, and I could feel its warm blood running down my arm and dripping onto the floorboards. Someone had let his guts and entrails in. They were a knot of jumbled pink and red muck hanging up. And then the candle went out. The rabbit fluttered for the last time and must have died. I knew I was going to puke right then and there, but Peppy had a dead grip on my shoulder and we heard voices. Like children's voices. Children who were very far away from us, but stubbornly trying to shout, to explain, to warn. Not a very intelligible chorus of children's voices. They sleep in summer, but wake up in winter. Looking for the weak, the defenseless. They seep in, flow black water from that side. She is the mistress, the little mistress, we will protect her. They will not touch her, you will not touch us. Everything in my head was floating, like in a high fever when consciousness is not with you, but dangling in a balloon 3 meters above your head. The voices whispered, merging into a single, steady, flowing, rustling whisper. There was a clicking sound under the ceiling. The chandelier lit up, one bulb exploding. We were standing on the doorstep of an ordinary children's room, full of toys, pictures, cartoon posters, and other things so dear to children. Waking Sonia sat up in bed and stared at us perplexedly, hoarsely asking, "Where is Rasotka? Massachusetts, where is my Rasotka?" I belatedly slipped my hand with the dead animal behind my back, and froze. I had a toy in my hands, a stuffed rabbit, exactly like a real one, only plush, with a company label on the paw. Perfectly intact. Rose. The child saw the rabbit and reached for it. "Jimmy, why did you take Rasotka?" It fell off the bed, and I tripped over it, I said with effort. "Here." "Silly Rasotka," she muttered, pushing the rabbit under the covers. "Massachusetts, it's still night." "Night," Peppy confirmed in a frozen voice. "Sleep." We heard something, and the lights went up. "But it's all right now. Go to sleep." She turned off the chandelier, but we couldn't leave right away. We stood on the doorstep, feeling the eyes of bears and ponies and kittens and dragons staring at us from a darkness that had calmed down, that had become peaceful and unafraid. The eyes of a guard that never sleeps, never tires, never leaves her post. Until the little mistress grows up. "Sonia saw a husky the other day, the size of a real one, in the children's world," said Peppy slowly, closing the door. "She has the hots for it more than life. It's really under 5,000. Do you think I should buy it? She's got lots of little things. At least she'll be big. A dog, after all. Even if it's a plush dog." "Buy it," I agreed. "Tomorrow."